Okay, so you guys changed the name?
Yeah, we went from Built to Cosine because Built was hard for people to pronounce.
Right.
It's a weird spelling of a word. It's not like a real world. And Cosine is more relevant to what we do now.
Oh, I see.
We were called Built when we were doing an AI app builder, and now we're doing more of an AI engineer / help you with your code base type of product, and a lot of that is predicated on cosine similarity for retrieval. So when we were figuring a new name, like, that seemed very relevant. So we thought,
I see.
Let's just do that instead.
Much easier to pronounce as well.
Yes.
All right, so I'm here with the founders of Cosine AI, and you guys were in Y-combinator. Were you here for the event?
Yeah, we were here for the reunion, so we were in the W23 batch. So not the most recent one, the one before that.
Was that the first in-person batch in a while?
It was. Yeah, it was the first in-person batch in a while. Not fully in person, so office hours was still remote, but we still had all the like in-person events for the group and stuff like that.
So you guys are from the UK?
We are, yeah, from London.
Oh, great. Love London. So yeah, we're taking them to the airport. They're headed back to London, and we are on the Tesla full self-driving 11472, the latest version. You guys have been taking some cruises, you told me, while you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole...
They're a Y-combinator company too at one point.
They are, yeah. Like the whole cruise thing, what's funny is we were here for 6 months.
Oh, there's a cruise car right now.
Yeah.
Driverless, actually.
Oh yeah. Oh, in the day.
Oh, what's it gonna do?
2 self-driving cars competing.
You see, already it creeping out like this is way more bold than a cruise ever was when we were in one.
Yeah, it definitely is more bold. I think partly because there's, supervision, it can kind of take more risks and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can always have the person, it has a much more human-like driving style.
Yes.
It can be aggressive on the highway too. It's always kind of insane to see them without a driver, honestly.
I know.
But it's getting so normal here, honestly.
Well, when we were in them last night, like Sam and I took a cruise back from near the ferry building to our hotel, and we were just talking in the back of the car as if it was an Uber. Like it was completely lost on us that there was no driver in there. It normalizes so fast.
Yeah, it really does become pretty comfortable so quickly. A lot of people. Oh,
there we go.
So kind of slammed on the brakes there as there were
sure about that.
Yeah, there were some people with luggage getting into the car. So I think it was anticipating maybe they might step open the door or something like that. But that was, that was kind of a mistaken judgment. Kind of good to see it do that. Oh, look at this. Self-driving car on self-driving car track. But yeah, I mean, these are the tough judgment calls, right? Are they going to walk out? Are they not, to create a smooth driving experience in the city?
Well, what it did just there would probably be no more overly cautious than a learner driver,
right?
Because they tend to be quite,
right,
quite tentative to do things like that. So if it's at that level, it can definitely probably get over that pretty quickly. I'd assume.
But what's amazing about this system is that it's pure computer vision. I mean, you look at just that thing right there.
Yeah,
it's
I
got
don't know how much that thing costs that's on the roof of that.
I know, right? And I mean, the sensor suite is extensive. I can see, multiple lidars, camera, radar, things that spin around. Which, at the end of the day, if you can do it with just computer vision, you can get this out into pretty much any car.
Yeah, and have a general solution.
Yeah.
Have a general solution. The thing that, so for example, with that instance right there where it slammed on the brakes because of those people, with the data collection that Tesla's obviously doing, what would Tesla sort of categorize that data as? Was that bad? Should it have been a bit smoother there? And how does it label that data for the reinforcement learning? How does it know if that was good or bad? Because you haven't told it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was bad. Anything that's different than what a human would have done is bad. So what I probably would have done as a human is maybe slow a little bit, maybe offset a little bit, but definitely not slam. And the thing is, in an urban environment like a city, people are walking around all the time. They're aware of traffic, right? They're not necessarily going to walk into traffic, but you do have people getting out, trying to get into cars, things like that. So it really needs to, and it's a really fine line. And, how do you do that? This is the kind of thing you can't really develop a heuristic for. Yeah. You can't really program out in C++ with some bounding boxes. Really, the only solution is you just have to use hindsight labeling, right? So they have the benefit of hindsight because you have the data, but then you know what ended up happening.
Mhm.
So you say, okay, I want to take all the clips where somebody was walking out into the street, loading a car, and find all the ones where they did end up walking out, and find all the ones where they didn't end up walking out in front of traffic. And then, okay, so I slammed on the brake, but then I turned out to be wrong. They didn't walk out. So now I'm going to send that up, label it, and say, okay, this is actually an example where they didn't. This is an example where they did. And I think the model can actually find little things, the speed that they're walking, the way their head is turned.
It will generalize that, it will intuit that just from having enough data.
And it's not going to be 100% correct, just like a human might not be 100% correct. But it's going to start to be able to pick up on those little things and make really good judgment calls about what people are doing, I think. Like, you've already seen it. It used to be extremely primitive. It saw any person, it would slam on the brakes. Like, I would have a headache testing it, like, oh my God, especially in SF, you know, there's people all over the place.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten dramatically better at differentiating intentions of pedestrians and things like that.
On that, the last time I was with you, I think it was on the version
So here's
10.
a construction zone.
Yeah, this would be tricky.
Yeah, so it has to, you know, go around. And it looks like it's stopping.
It sees the construction zone.
Yeah.
Oh, is it going to let that person through?
Okay, so yeah, I was just making a lane change. There was a person coming.
No,
Okay, this is really tricky.
Got a red light, construction zone.
Yeah, it looks like...
And it's trying to do hang a left here, is that?
Yeah, it looks like the street is blocked off. I don't even know if we can turn left.
There's a do not enter sign.
Yeah, it might say do not enter.
Interesting. What's it going to do?
Is it going to try and go away? It's not allowed to.
Or any of
Well-
these cars going to go straight? And if they are. That one is.
Well,
oh, so presumably is open.
I'm trying to figure... Oh, okay, yeah,
Okay,
so we
yeah.
can go there.
Okay, there are cars going that way.
So, okay, this will be interesting. Come on, car. I know you can do it. I know you can do it.
There we go.
Oh, God, oh, God.
Nice.
Okay,
Sees
wow.
the cones. This is really hard, to be fair. This is very impressive.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be able to handle that. Okay, it's
Seeing all the cones.
driving very slowly and cautiously.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too cautiously. I think the guy behind me is getting a little annoyed.
Yeah, and it stopped.
Okay, I think I'm going to give it a little accelerator press. Oh, okay, no, that's not the way.
No.
Okay, almost.
Almost. So close.
To be fair, that was very hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Almost there.
would have been interested to see how a Cruise or a
Cruise,
Waymo
yeah.
behaved in that instant.
Right,
The
yeah.
guy did give you a look on the way past.
So yeah, what I was asking was, compared to version 10, how is version 11? Because the last time I was in this car, it was...
Well, you tell me. I mean, I probably have less of a sense of it because I've been using it every day, so...
Sure.
Do you notice any difference?
Well, we haven't been in it that long, but it definitely seems, I guess, more confident, like you said earlier, around people. I do remember, and maybe this is just me misremembering, but with version 10, yeah, when there were people, it would be very cautious about braking.
Yeah, annoyingly so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were driving, and I think someone was walking literally just down the sidewalk next to us, and it braked even though...
Yeah.
But like we've walked past loads of people doing that, and it hasn't done that.
Exactly.
Which is great.
So it's much more situational.
It's gotten
Yeah,
much better at that, which is here in San Francisco, it's just all the time, people. So tell me about Cosine AI.
Sure.
So when we got into YC, the way that we ended up doing this was essentially when we got into YC, we applied with a slightly different idea. We were working on a problem where you were able to effectively put in a natural language app idea, and our product would take that app idea and build out the entire thing.
Yeah, pretty ambitious.
I'd say it was also slightly ahead of its time insofar as we were using the first version of DaVinci 3, like the first sort of iteration of GPT-3 when it came out.
Right.
And the amount of change prompts and the difficulty involved in getting it all right was really high. Yeah. And we eventually had a product that could do front end, back end, business logic, and deployment. We put it all together, and it would work probably about 50 to 60% reliably.
Right.
It was good for a demo, so long as the demo was the right demo.
Right.
And I think that's basically got what got us an interview with YC. And when we got onto the interview, who basically would become our group partners, Michael Seibel and Tom Blumfeld, basically said, obviously this is a cool application, but it's a bit gimmicky, and there are a million problems with like the business model behind it being consumer and churn and all these different things, and also like expectations being really high and delivery quality being significantly lower than what people were expecting.
It's a little bit ahead of its time.
It's very much ahead of its time. Ironically, GPT-4 can kind of zero shot that kind of thing now.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was unheard of. So on our interview with YC, we kind of had a back and forth with the guys, and we ended up landing on a slight change in philosophy, where instead of helping developers create code bases from scratch, we were going to help developers work with existing code bases that they use all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes way more sense, and in hindsight, I don't know why we didn't see that, but effectively...
Yeah, that sounds pretty smart. I need to take a look at this.
Effectively, it was... what we pitched them was almost a thing that would help them, developers, do tickets, understand their code base, find stuff more effectively, but it was a very sort of loose vision, because we came up with it in 15 minutes on a call. But they saw that we were amenable and malleable, so they let us in the batch. We were one of the earlier companies in the batch, and we had basically 2 weeks to come up with an MVP. So we had to figure out how on earth are we going to do this. And what we initially landed on was, okay, if you think from a developer's point of view, how does a developer do their work? Well, first of all, they have to understand the code base they're working on now to be able to affect any kind of change to it. Right. Which is why onboarding times for some companies are so long. Like we spoke about Cruise earlier, we spoke to some of the guys from Cruise, and the onboarding times for some of their engineers can be up to 6 months. So that being the case, we knew that there was definitely something we could optimize to start with. So we built a semantic search tool, and that's what we initially launched when we started in YC. And it was, by comparison to what we have now, quite bare bones, but effectively you could ask natural language questions of your code base and get pretty good answers back. And that was the start of us building our sort of code-based knowledge engine that we've been working on all this time.
So how do you structure that with something like the Open AI API, where you have sort of a narrow context window? How do you ask questions about the code base?
With difficulty. So
that's actually the whole thing, actually, is trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, so
maybe like embeddings or something could help you point you in the right direction.
So we have a number of heuristics we use now. Back then, we only used the embeddings, the semantic side. But as you mentioned, like the entire game of anything in this sort of space is getting the right information in front of the model.
Right.
And that is what we have spent all of our time working on. So we have the semantic heuristic now, we have static analysis, we have keyword related stuff, we have crawlers that go through the code base and label stuff, all of these different approaches, and they all tie together to be able to actually find the most relevant information for a given query, which is what we're trying to do. The idea being, once you have this knowledge engine that can actually pick out the right parts of a code base given a query, even if those parts are quite far apart from each other. Imagine you had a monorepo where you have some UI in one part, and then you have, say, the back-end endpoints that are relevant to that UI, and you want to affect both to do a feature. Finding those two things and connecting them can be quite difficult. So once you can do that, then you really have the basis to be able to create an AI software engineer, which is fundamentally what we're trying to do.
Right.
Because you can then
That's a good sort of North Star for the company, you know?
Precisely.
I think it's really, like, you look at some of Elon's companies, for example, they've got immediate tasks, but this sort of long-term vision, like a 10-year vision.
Yes.
I think it's great to have a company where they say, okay, we got a product, but we have a 10-year vision too.
And it's like when Sam and I sat down, actually when we graduated from YC, we really had that in mind, and we were like, okay, how are we going to get to building this thing? And everything that we build is sort of built on top of the last thing we built. So we started with semantic search, then we built the other heuristics on top of that, and then we built a more comprehensive understanding engine on top of those things, and so on and so on. And it all is going to sort of culminate in the ability to use that understanding engine to ideate on how stuff should be done next. So do this as a function of what I already have, and getting what I already have correct is the hard bit that we're solving right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once you've got all that, in theory, you automate it, then you have an AI software engineer, and you know, productivity goes up significantly. We've internally already played around with quite a few different things. Another hard thing to get right is UX.
Right.
That is something that I'd say our founding team is maybe less competent at. Purely because we've spent so much time whilst working in this space on the raw engine that underpins everything. Right. Finding a UX that users actually like to interact with is also extremely key. I mean, if you look at a product like Cursor,
People are very particular about their IDs, right?
Exactly, like Cursor.
Vim versus Emacs. I mean, they're the same thing to me.
Yeah.
But people really get
It's quite
a very picky
it's quite a cult following kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you look at a company like Cursor right now, who are killing it online, they have gone very far with producing a really good UX for integrating GPT-4 into your IDE workflow. Fundamentally, like, they might not be going to the same level of depth of, like, you know, analyzing ASTs deep in your code base and figuring out connections between everything, but they do give you the AI where you need it. And that alone has proved to be very valuable to developers. So that is something that we're definitely turning our attention to now that we have sort of built this underlying engine.
So, you know, there's been a lot of excitement in open source AI. You've got, you know, Llama 2. As somebody who's sort of building on top of LLMs, how do you look at, say, the trade-offs of OpenAI versus using something like Llama 2 or doing something custom there?
Well, so for the longest time, we felt somewhat boxed in by the fact that OpenAI, especially GPT-4, especially GPT-4 32K, has been so much more advanced than all of the other models. However, we are now starting to get to a stage where A, open source models like Llama 2 and Llama 2 Code are very capable, and B, as a company, we are amassing large enough training data sets to be able to fine-tune open source models to do the jobs that the OpenAI models are doing to a similar level of our evals, just because we have the data sets to be able to specialize them in that way. So compared to 6 months ago, I feel much more bullish on the state of the open source community, which is great for us because, you know, especially like in the line of work that we're in, a lot of especially enterprise level customers don't want data leaving their VPC, don't want data leaving their company. And
it's become a big topic,
Exactly, and even though OpenAI say yes, no, we don't train on your data or anything like that,
they've really had to go out and you know, businesses care. You got the Azure thing, really sort of marketing. Okay, don't let OpenAI get your data. It's become a huge topic.
Exactly, it's like the whole cloud thing all over again. So the improvement of these open source models is great news for us because it allows us to start doing these offerings where we can throw it in your VPC and it's absolutely fine, or we could do it on-prem offering if we wanted to.
One thing I'll add to that is that a lot of the tasks that we do aren't necessarily needing to take the full advantage of the sort of capabilities of GPT-4. Sometimes they're just classifiers for, like, what does this person want to do, and we still use GPT-4 for everything, but as they get smarter and like these sort of smaller, cheaper models exist, it's likely that we'll use them for some auxiliary tasks like classifiers.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a great thing. I think it puts a lot more power in the hands of the people building on top of these models, you know, to have so much flexibility and like just so much thriving open source efforts.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, the open source community has been amazing for that, and I think there are only a couple of places in our implementation where not having a GPT-4 32K makes me a bit nervous in terms of quality. But I think that it's only a matter of time before someone goes ahead and trains a Llama 2 mixture of experts model that is comparable maybe to a GPT-4. And then if you can fine tune that, then I have no real concerns on that level.
A lot of times, you know, some of the smaller models fine-tuned can perform extremely well.
We've seen that ourselves. Like the amount recently, we've really been moving away from using GPT-4 in as many places as possible, and have just been fine-tuning 3.5 Turbo. And we've had, for example, I mean, we've put it into our beta recently. Like, we had a step in our workflow that with GPT-4 required a lot of planning, a lot of self-reflection. It took 14 seconds.
Oh wow!
And a user waiting for 14 seconds is almost like unacceptable. And we managed to get that down to 600 milliseconds with 3.5 Turbo, and its performance on our evals is effectively unchanged, which I found super interesting.
Oh shit! I forgot about this Waymo.
Is it going?
Sorry, you missed us. Oops. Sorry, Gary. Well, I'll touch base with him after. But it said please pay attention to the road. But so talk to me about Y-combinator. I mean, it seems like, you know, I mean, I've always loved Y-combinator. I think they're such a great part of the whole Silicon Valley lore, come here, we'll help you with your startup.
Yeah.
It seems like they had a lot of influence. They helped you refocus the company. You guys changed the name. I think it's a much better name.
Mm-hmm.
Cosine compared to Built.
Yes, Built with a DT at the end. BUILDT.
Right, yeah, because, I was kind of like thinking as I picked you up, like, what was their name exactly?
Yeah,
was it Built? Yeah. Cosine? That's easy to remember. So, I mean, do you think you would have changed the name? Do you think you would have refocused the company without Y-combinator, or do you think you'd still be barking up the other tree?
I think we would. So I think both Sam and I are massive evangelists of Y-combinator, because without them we definitely wouldn't be sat with you right now.
Yeah.
We might have had to go back to our jobs. So a bit of background, like Sam and I both quit our jobs prior to getting into YC.
Nice.
And we had.
That's the way to do it.
We were spending our own limited funds. We had only 3 or 4 months runway to actually make something happen. And at the time, we were actually trying to raise in Europe for our old idea, and we were getting nowhere.
Yeah.
We were getting nowhere, and the terms that we got one term sheet, it was on terrible terms. We really didn't want to take it.
Yeah.
And that was probably a month away from running out of runway, at which point we'd have had to go and interview for jobs just to live, basically. And without YC giving us a shot and being like, okay, you seem like smart guys, go and see what you can make happen, we would have never made anything happen. Our dream wouldn't even be in motion. So we're super grateful for just being given a shot. And then in terms of the actual value add they have given us, definitely they helped us refocus. I think
Sorry, let me take this. Hey, Gary, sorry, I'm dropping these guys off at the airport. Can I give you a call back in 5 minutes? I'll call you another Waymo.
Yeah, we walked over there, but he's gone by now. For whatever reason, it made us go 11 minutes away, which is weird.
I'm sorry.
And saw one right in front of the St. Regis, so I'm not sure why it did that.
It can't. The Waymo can't make it to the St. Regis. It's not within the service. It can't get there. It's too challenging for it. So they want you to walk to one of the spots.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just call me back when you're done. I'll deal with it. Just it's not here anymore. But I don't know how we get into it anyway.
I'll have to unlock it for you. Sorry about that, Gary. I'll give you a call back in 5.
Thanks.
Everybody's got to try it. I'm like, spreading the message.
You're the guy. You're the
self-driving cars.
Guy,
yeah. So, that's Gary Black. He's a buddy of mine.
I recognize the name. I feel like I'm switching.
Yeah. So, he runs a fund. They're an investor in Tesla, so I wanted him to try Waymo too. But it's amazing the state of AI these days. The announcements coming out. You got
it's overwhelming, isn't it?
The multimodal in ChatGPT in the next couple of weeks, I think, is super exciting. The voice interface with Whisper. Even just the browsing coming back. All of these things. The code interpreter. Some of these features like Spotify now, they can translate podcasts live.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars. I mean, what do you guys think of the ride? It's been pretty smooth, right?
I forgot we were in a self.
It's that good that I didn't notice. Especially
and with
when you
computer
get out of the
vision.
City. Yeah, especially when you get out of the city. It's
on the highway, it's just
Highway
beautiful.
definitely feels like a completely solved.
I did it. I recently did a about 800-mile drive in one day, which I know in the US is quite short, but in Europe that's pretty long. All the way from the south of France back to London.
Oh wow!
And it was 10 hours.
So you took the tunnel?
Yeah, I took the tunnel. It was 10 hours
awesome.
and 40 minutes. And I have a Golf. I don't have a Tesla. I have a Golf, but it has radar cruise control, which is already very useful.
Oh yeah.
But if I could have just done like this the entire time, it would have been so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
I would have felt so much less tired at the end.
Things like lane changes just blow my mind away.
Yeah, exactly. And on a highway, this is way more congested than French motorway. It would have been so easy, honestly.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is the fact that this is computer vision. I mean, the sensor suite probably costs less than $100. Just in terms of the cameras. The computer probably costs $1,000 or less. And they're making millions of these things. They're making millions of Teslas. We're not really far away from basically, I think, every car having this functionality built in.
Do you think they'll white label the technology?
I think they will license it to other automakers,
I really think that would be a great thing to do. Yeah, I heard a rumor for that. That's why I asked. I thought...
every car is going to have AI in it. It's going to be crazy to have a car that doesn't understand what's happening around it.
Yes. Yes, agree.
So take a look at this. It's actually going over to the international terminal side.
Oh, because it knows.
Because it knows that we have to drop you off at the international, yeah.
That's so cool.
I don't think it read the sign. I think it's
right.
more just the map data.
Sure.
But, you know, same effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, very impressive.
So you're getting your Model S?
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. And that's got the hardware for it. So that's got the next generation computer, the next generation inference chip. They went up from 1.2 megapixel cameras to 5 megapixel cameras.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
How much horsepower does it have? Is it the Plaid? Which one is it?
Yeah, it's a long range, so it's... I mean, it just flies. It's crazy.
I'm sure.
This one's pretty fast too. So I'm auctioning it off online, so...
Oh, nice. So that will be your next daily?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Too bad I didn't get it before. I could have given you guys a ride, but next time you come to the
next
States...
time we'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, give you a call, we'll go for another ride, and hopefully on the new end-to-end system they're developing.
Have you got any others on order? You got like a Roadster or
No.
anything else in the pipeline?
I might get a Cybertruck.
We saw one in person yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Stuff, yeah.
Where'd you see it?
It was down. It was on the Embarcadero.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shit, I gotta go drive around SF more and try to spot a Cybertruck.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Let's take a look at this. It's going around the stop car.
Oh yeah, it's. This is also very tricky to navigate, isn't it?
So I think this is where it is, right?
Yeah, this is it?
Anywhere
What's your airline?
I
guess it doesn't matter.
It's
Yeah,
Norse.
any of these are fine.
Any of these are fine.
Okay, cool. All right, so there we go. We had one takeover for the construction zone, but pretty impressive.
No, that's very impressive.
That's great.
Both city and highway driving.
Mhm.
Very good.
All right, guys, we'll have a safe flight. It was good to catch up with you guys.
Thank you so
really
much.
appreciate you driving.
And
Great
good luck with Copilot. I mean, send me a beta invite for the ride.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I'd love to try it.
We'll do.
Right, we'll grab all our bags and things.
Okay.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Appreciate it.